Sanctions were imposed. In the beginning, it looked like all hell broke loose on the Russian economy. US President said Russian currency ruble will soon turn into ruble.
As a result of these unprecedented sanctions, the ruble almost is immediately reduced to rubble. The Russian economy, that's true by the way, takes about 200 rubles equal $1.
As of today, however, things look drastically different than anticipated. The IMF this week said that the Russian economy was doing great, much better than expected. Simply put, the American and European sanctions miserably failed to rein in Russia's economy. In this video, we'll find out how the policymakers in Moscow and President Vladimir Putin himself weathered this storm quite successfully. The IMF this week upgraded Russia's GDP estimate for this year by a remarkable 2.5 percentage points. Now, despite the war and sanctions, the Russian economy will contract by just 6%. That's a huge success for Putin and even a bigger failure for the West. But what exactly did Putin do to meet this glittering fate? So, the first measure that Russia took after the war was to focus on its plummeting currency. When the sanctions were imposed, the ruble fell to as low as 135 against the dollar. Today it fares around 65. Thanks to Russia's ruble strike on the West, Russia behaved in a way to boost the ruble's demand in the currency market. First of all European importers of Russian energy were asked to pay in rubles. This boosted the demand for the ruble in the international market and helped Russia stabilize its currency. Moreover, Moscow asked its exporters to convert 80% of their revenues into ruble, which further skyrocketed the demand for ruble. See this figure now. On February 24th, the Central Bank of Russia sold 84.8 billion rubles to meet this spiraling demand. This came as importers in Russia slowed down demand for the US dollar due to disruptions in supply chains. All in all, demand for the ruble went up and the US dollar went down. This resulted in the shoring up of the ruble's value. As a result, inflation was brought under control. According to Bloomberg, the Bank of Russia has improved its inflation outlook and now anticipates price growth will end the year at 12% to 15%, whereas its earlier prediction was 14% to 17%. The second big measure that Russia took was to find new customers for its oil after the sweeping sanctions were imposed by US and Europe. It started selling oil at heavy discounts. For oil-guzzling nations like China and India, the discounts were too lucrative to be missed. For instance, India imported 18% of Russia's total crude exports in May. Before the invasion, India's share was just 1%. In a similar fashion, China's crude imports from Russia too drastically went northward. This more than made up for the lost revenues in US and Europe. As a result, Russia's coffers never ran dry. Fuel inflation in Europe also played a major role here. Despite the fact that Europeans imported less fuel from Russia, they ended up paying more due to the inflation which stemmed from sanctions on Russian fuel imports. Today, Russia finds itself sitting in a comfortable position, while the West sits on thin ice. Russia's central bank has started reducing interest rates. Last Friday, the benchmark was brought down to 8% from 9.5%, signaling a fall in inflation. Also, the 80% ruble conversion mandate on Russian exporters has been replaced with a 50% conversion mandate to cool down the red-hot ruble market and support exports. This was Putinomics for you, my dear friends, an economic miracle that navigated Russia out of the gloomy shadows with great success.